It's very dire. There's people dropping on the footpath, literally. I can't wait to get out of here. It's terrible.
A city of 11 million people in lockdown.
So here I am sitting at home because after returning from Hubei province at the heart of the coronavirus outbreak, everybody's told you need to go into quarantine. You can't be exposed to others for several weeks.
More than 2,000 dead, tens of thousands infected. Rising anger over how the crisis is being handled.
Local officials in Wuhan did withhold information. The doctors in Wuhan who were talking about it were explicitly told to shut up.
And scientists racing to find a vaccine.
We just don't know how this outbreak is going to develop or how many people are ultimately going to be infected or ultimately going to die from this disease.
I'm absolutely fucking petrified. The police are actually knocking on doors and taking temperatures, and if people have got a temperature, they're dragging them out. You don't get a fucking say in it. You don't get an option.
In early December, people in Wuhan begin falling ill with a mystery virus.
First infections in Wuhan started in early December, and I believe the first case in December the 1st. When a new infectious disease appears, it does take a little time to register and become aware that it's new. So there were people presenting with a form of pneumonia.
Local doctors suspect the virus originated in the city's seafood and wildlife market.
So we think the virus probably originated from bats because that's what the genetic data tell us, but often there's an intermediary animal host. In this case, they think pangolins might be implicated, which are a mammal, and that intermediary animal host might have been at the markets. We don't think that it's from eating those things specifically, like through the gastrointestinal tract, but more from handling them, from touching the contaminated meat. So somewhere in that market, we believe there must have been a contaminated animal source that infected the first cluster of humans.
In late December, as the number of cases increases, doctors in Wuhan begin sharing information in a private chat group.
Well before any of us knew about the coronavirus, there were people who tried to sound the alarm. So there were a group of whistleblowers who'd heard that there was this virus cluster, and they started speaking about it. Now, in particular, there was one doctor, Li Wenliang. He posted on a chat group with his former university classmates that people had been coming in with what he thought was the SARS virus.
7 SARS cases were confirmed in the Huanan seafood market. The main mode of transmission of the virus is droplet transmission at close range or contact with respiratory secretions of patients. This can cause a special pneumonia that is evidently contagious and capable of affecting multiple organ systems. It is also called SARS. The patients were isolated in the emergency department of a hospital. Everyone, please be careful. That's scary. SARS is back.
The reason why they would have been so concerned at the prospect is this was SARS was threefold. First of all, SARS was super infectious. Second, it had a relatively high mortality rate of 10%. And third, a large number of healthcare workers actually died from SARS because of the complexity with stopping transmission. And I think that was the real concern.
The notice warns them to keep the outbreak quiet.
Without authorization, no units or individuals shall release treatment-related information to the outside. I have no doubt that local governments have reported the situation to the central government. So local governments were not accountable to the people at that time, but to the central government. They adopted the policy of concealing the truth from the public, but starting to control the epidemic internally. This contradiction prevented them from properly mobilizing to deal with the spread of the epidemic.
I think there's little doubt right now that local officials in Wuhan did withhold information. They've admitted as much. The doctors in Wuhan who were talking about it were
organization says the
explicitly
risk of the virus expanding worldwide is now classified as very high. And there are new cases of the disease here in the United States. 16 cases so far have been detected and confirmed in the U.S. Another 47 people were evacuated from the Diamond Princess cruise ship and from the region in China where the coronavirus originated, for a total of 63 patients. They are being treated in 8 different states. But overnight, more suspected cases are popping up, some of them leaving doctors with more questions. Michael George is here with the latest. Michael, good morning.
Good morning. There are new suspected cases in California, Oregon, and Washington. Doctors treating the 2 patients in California and Oregon don't know how either of them may have contracted the disease. None of the patients had traveled to an area where coronavirus has circulated, nor have they come into close contact with a confirmed case. As health officials try to contain the virus, it continues to put millions of people in this country on edge and rattle the markets.
What we know now is that the virus is here, present at some level, but we still don't know to what degree.
While the CDC is trying to track down anyone who's come into contact with these patients, the government health agency admitted Friday there's a shortage of test kits. So far, fewer than 500 people in the U.S. have been tested. Meanwhile, stores have been selling out of face masks, and the FDA warned there could be potential disruptions to supply or shortages of critical medical products, with as many as 20 medications with ingredients from China already at risk.
To date, more than 83,000 cases have been reported worldwide, the vast majority in China. Cases have been confirmed in 53 nations. The virus is blamed for more than 2,800 deaths so far since it was first reported late last year. This morning, the State Department is urging Americans to reconsider travel to Italy, where there are more cases than anywhere outside Asia.
There is growing evidence that Italy has not only been one of the epicenters of the global outbreak, it helped export its spread around the world.
We don't know when the virus has arrived. Maybe that arrived earlier than we detected.
He said the virus went viral, with carriers traveling from here undetected too. Originating from China, the virus has now spread to more than 60 countries and counting. New Zealand, Nigeria, Lithuania, Belarus, Azerbaijan are the latest countries to report new cases. But South Korea has seen the largest surge. More than 800 new cases in a single day have swollen figures to more than 3,100, the largest outbreak outside of China. Japan has taken even more draconian measures, canceling classes for more than 12 million students, shutting down schools for a month in order to stem the spread of the virus. Iran, another country that has given rise to a cluster of infections, took the extraordinary step of canceling Friday prayers for the first time since the revolution in 1979.
To have caught the disease here, had to wait days to be tested for it. And there's late word as well on what the public is told and by whom. It all now has to go through the vice president's office. The New York Times reporting that Dr. Anthony Fauci, the face of so many public health emergencies over the years, has been told by the White House not to speak out without clearance.
We have, through some very good early decisions that were actually ridiculed at the beginning, and we did it very early. A lot of people thought we shouldn't have done it that early, and we did, and it turned out to be a very good thing. Because of all we've done, the risk to the American people remains very low. The vaccine is coming along well, and we have a total of 15 cases, many of which, almost much within a day, I will tell you, most of whom are fully recovered. I think that's really a pretty impressive mark. And again, when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done. And again, we've had tremendous success beyond what people would have thought.
Well, keeping him honest, some of the president's optimism was belied just moments later by his own experts. Here's Anthony Fauci, apparently approved to speak in this case on a vaccine which the president has repeatedly said is close.
So although this is the fastest we have ever gone from a sequence of a virus to a trial, it still will not be any applicable to the epidemic unless we really wait about a year to a year and a half.
Our aggressive containment strategy here in the United States has been working and is responsible for the low levels of cases that we have so far. However, we do expect more cases. and this is a good time to prepare.
You're head of Homeland Security. Do we have enough respirators or not?
For patients, I don't understand the question.
For everybody, every American who needs one who gets the disease.
Again, I would refer you to HHS on that.
Mr. Secretary,
my budget supports.
You're supposed to keep us safe.
My budget supports the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security.
You're the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Yes, sir.
And you can't tell me if we have enough respirators.
For the entire American public?
Yes.
No, I would say probably not.
Okay, how short are we?
I don't have that number offhand, Senator. I will get that for you.
Okay, but I want to be sure I understand. Somebody.
Yes, sir.
Is doing modeling.
Yes, sir.
On how many cases we're anticipating. You're
yes,
just
sir.
not aware of them.
You're asking me a number of medical questions that
I'm asking
CDC
you questions
and HHS
because you're Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and you're supposed to keep us safe.
Yes, sir.
And you need to know the answers to these questions.
It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And from our shores, it could get worse before it gets better. It could maybe go away. We'll see what happens. Nobody really knows.
Coronaviridae are actually an entire family of viruses that cause disease in mammals and birds. SARS, for example, was also a coronavirus. Now, viruses are interesting in that they are sometimes considered both living and non-living things. They aren't made of cells, but they do have the ability to replicate, just in a different way than other organisms. Oh, and they're actually much, much smaller than cells.
Now, to contract the coronavirus, you first have to come in contact with it, either through an infected person's respiratory secretion, so a cough or a sneeze, through physical contact with them, or by physically touching a surface that the virus is on, and then touching somewhere like your nose or your mouth before washing your hands. Once the virus is able to enter your body, its work can begin.
Now, as your cells begin to get damaged and die, your body will sense this and start to trigger an immune response. And both of these things are what will create these symptoms that you begin to feel. In the case of the coronavirus, these symptoms include headaches, runny nose, coughing, sore throat, and fever, which is part of the reason why it's been so hard to track and understand, because those are common symptoms. We feel those all the time, especially during flu season or just from getting the common cold. Medical professionals would need to do laboratory tests on respiratory specimens, as well as blood work and blood tests to understand if your symptoms are coming from the Wuhan coronavirus.
In a healthy individual, the immune system will eventually realize that there's a foreign agent inside your body and mount an attack. The immune system is incredibly complex with a plethora of different mechanisms to take down your invaders. Your temperature increases, which helps your immune system function better and actually makes it a more hostile environment for the virus. You might create more snot and phlegm, which make it harder for the virus to attach to your cells and also help to get rid of dead viruses and immune cells. You may feel weak and tired as your body starts to prioritize fighting off this virus instead of doing your regular day-to-day activities, and your bones may actually feel sore and ache, and that's because they're actually making more white blood cells.
But for coronavirus, those with healthy immune systems should be able to fight off and rid the body of the virus within weeks. The problem is primarily for those who have compromised immune systems, which is often people who are elderly or people who are very young. This particular coronavirus has mostly affected the elderly, and that's because as we age, our immune systems become less effective and they actually slow down. As the virus continues to proliferate and cells continue to die, in a desperate attempt to save your body, your immune system can go into overdrive.
It's the immunocompromised that are most at risk, and even with that, it's worth saying that the numbers are relatively low. If you think about it, 40,000 people died of the flu in the US alone last year, and over 1 million people died of heart disease. On top of that, the death rate right now is being estimated between 2 and 3%, which is continually evolving, but a disease like SARS was a death rate of 10%, and Ebola in some regions has been up to 50%. All this to say, don't allow the news to make you panic.